Marcus Chen wiped his greasy hands on his coveralls and reached for his 20th cup of coffee that day. The steaming black liquid had become his lifeline during the endless repairs on Frontier Station 7. As the only human mechanic in this sector of the galaxy, he'd earned a reputation for fixing the unfixable, though most aliens attributed it to some mysterious human technology, rather than pure, stubborn determination and caffeine. The station hummed around him, a massive trading hub where dozens of species conducted business in the neutral space between star systems. Marcus had been here for 3 years, ever since his transport ship broke down and he traded his passenger fare for a permanent position. The station's previous mechanics had been baffled by the constant equipment failures until Marcus arrived with his toolbox and an endless supply of Earth coffee. His workshop occupied a corner of the industrial sector, crammed with spare parts, jury-rigged diagnostic equipment, and empty coffee cups. The smell of motor oil mixed with the rich aroma of his latest brew, creating a uniquely human atmosphere that most aliens found either fascinating or revolting. Marcus didn't mind either reaction. A sharp alarm echoed through the corridors, followed by the station commander's voice crackling over the intercom. All personnel to emergency stations. Unidentified vessel requesting immediate assistance. Possible life support failure. Marcus set down his coffee and grabbed his emergency kit. Even during crises, someone needed to keep the station running. And that someone was usually him. He'd learned that alien emergency protocols often overlooked the basic mechanical failures that could turn a minor crisis into a catastrophe. The main docking bay buzzed with activity as emergency crews prepared for the incoming vessel. Marcus positioned himself near the mechanical systems, ready to handle any power fluctuations or docking clamp failures. Through the massive viewport, he watched a sleek silver ship approach, its hull scarred by what looked like weapons fire. The ship docked with unusual silence. No engine vibrations, no hydraulic hisses, no electromagnetic signatures. Marcus frowned, checking his instruments. Every reading showed the vessel was completely dead, yet it had somehow maneuvered perfectly into the docking bay. Station Commander Vex High, a 7-foot-tall Zentorian with blue-scaled skin, approached the docking tube. Vessel is not responding to communications. Life support readings are unusual. Marcus stepped forward, his diagnostic scanner in hand. What kind of unusual? Toxic atmosphere? Low oxygen? Unknown. Our equipment cannot identify the atmospheric composition. The readings shift constantly, as if something inside is changing the environment. The docking tube sealed with a metallic clang, and the airlock cycled through its safety protocols. Marcus watched the readouts carefully, noting several irregularities in the pressurization sequence. Whatever was inside that ship was definitely not standard. The inner airlock door slid open with a whisper, revealing a corridor that seemed to shimmer in the artificial light. The walls appeared to be made of some unknown metal that shifted between silver and gold, as if responding to their presence. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows that moved independently of their sources. "Stay back," Commander Vex High ordered the security team. "Unknown technology requires caution." Marcus ignored the warning and stepped into the corridor, his scanner beeping frantically as it tried to make sense of the readings. The air felt different here, thicker somehow, with an underlying taste of ozone and something else he couldn't identify. His boots clicked against the floor, which seemed to pulse gently beneath his feet. "Human Marcus," the commander called. "Your expertise in unusual technology may be required. But exercise caution. We do not know what we face." The corridor led to a central chamber where the ship's main systems should have been located. Instead, Marcus found himself in what looked like a nursery from some alien fairy tale. Soft, bioluminescent panels lined the walls, casting a gentle blue-green glow. In the center of the room sat a large, crystalline structure that hummed with contained energy. And inside the crystal, something moved. Marcus approached slowly, his scanner forgotten in his fascination. The crystal wasn't solid, it was some kind of energy field containing what appeared to be a living creature. As he got closer, the humming grew louder, almost musical. "By the void," whispered Dr. Kalnath, the station's xenobiologist, who had arrived with the medical team. "I have never seen anything like this." The creature inside was roughly the size of a house cat, with scales that shifted through every color of the spectrum. It had 4 legs, 2 small wing buds, and a long tail that curled around its body. Most remarkably, it had large, intelligent eyes that seemed to track their movements with obvious awareness. "Is it some kind of reptile?" Marcus asked. Though even as he spoke, he realized how inadequate the term was. This creature was unlike anything in any database he'd ever seen. "Unknown, Doctor," Calneth replied, adjusting her scanning equipment. "The energy field is preventing detailed analysis, but initial readings suggest it may be artificial." "Artificial?" Commander Vexhai stepped closer. "You mean constructed? Like a robot?" "No," Marcus said slowly, studying the patterns of energy swirling around the crystal. "Not artificial like a machine. Artificial like created. Engineered." The creature seemed to respond to his voice, pressing against the energy field and making small chirping sounds. Its eyes fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. There was something profoundly aware about that gaze, something that suggested intelligence far beyond what its size would indicate. "The energy field is weakening," Dr. Calneth announced, her instruments detecting minute fluctuations. "Whatever is sustaining this environment is failing." Marcus knelt beside the crystal, ignoring the protests of the security team. Up close, he could see that the creature was in distress. Its scales had shifted to darker colors, and its movements were becoming more frantic. The musical humming was taking on discordant notes that spoke of desperation. "It's dying," Marcus said simply. "Whatever this energy field is, it's keeping it alive, and it's shutting down." "Human Marcus," Commander Vexhai said carefully. "We should evacuate this vessel and establish containment protocols. We do not understand what we are dealing with." But Marcus was already examining the base of the crystalline structure, looking for some kind of control mechanism or power source. His engineering instincts had taken over. The same instincts that had kept the station running for 3 years. Something was broken, and he was going to fix it. "There," he muttered, finding a series of geometric patterns etched into the crystal's base. They weren't quite buttons, more like touch-sensitive areas that responded to pressure and body heat. "This looks like a manual override." "Marcus, no, Doctor," Calneth called out. "We don't know what will happen if you disrupt the field." Marcus paused, his hand hovering over the controls. The creature inside was watching him with those impossibly intelligent eyes, and he could swear he saw trust there. Not fear, not desperation, trust, as if this strange little being somehow knew he was trying to help. "Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith," Marcus said, and pressed his palm against the largest symbol. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The energy field collapsed, the crystal dissolved like mist, and the creature dropped into Marcus's waiting hands. It was warm and surprisingly heavy, its scales soft, despite their metallic appearance. For a moment, it lay perfectly still, and Marcus feared he had made a terrible mistake. Then it opened its eyes and looked directly at him. Not the unfocused gaze of an animal, but the direct, evaluating stare of a person meeting someone for the first time. It tilted its head, made a soft trilling sound, and then did something that would change Marcus's life forever. It spoke, not in any language Marcus recognized, but unmistakably speech. The sounds were musical, complex, layered with harmonics that seemed to convey meaning beyond words. And somehow, impossibly, Marcus understood the emotional content, if not the literal meaning: gratitude, relief, and something that felt remarkably like hope. The creature Marcus found himself thinking of it as a dragon. Despite knowing the term was probably wildly inaccurate, settled comfortably in his hands, and closed its eyes. Within moments, it was asleep, its tiny chest rising and falling with steady breathing. "Fascinating," Dr. Calneth whispered. "The creature has accepted you as, what, a parent? A caretaker?" Marcus looked down at the sleeping dragon and felt an unexpected surge of protectiveness. "I don't know. But right now, it needs care. And I'm apparently the one it trusts." Commander Vexhai approached cautiously. "This creature may be dangerous, We know nothing of its origins or capabilities. It's a baby, Marcus said firmly. Look at it. Whatever else it is, it's young and scared and alone. And now it's my responsibility. The dragon stirred at the sound of his voice, opening one eye to check on him before settling back into sleep. Its scales had shifted to a warm golden color that reminded Marcus absurdly of his morning coffee. We should return to the station, Marcus said. This little one is going to need food, water, and somewhere safe to rest. And I need to figure out what the hell I've gotten myself into. As they prepared to leave the mysterious ship, Marcus couldn't help but notice that his scanner was still beeping frantically. Not at the dragon, the creature barely registered on his instruments. The scanner was reacting to something else, something that had changed in the ship's systems when the crystal field collapsed. Hidden beneath the bioluminescent panels, previously inactive displays were beginning to glow. Text in an unknown language scrolled past, accompanied by star charts and what looked like navigational data. The ship wasn't dead after all. It had been waiting for someone to rescue its precious cargo. Marcus cradled the sleeping dragon and wondered what he had really signed up for. In his 3 years on Frontier Station 7, he'd learned that the galaxy was full of surprises, most of them dangerous. But as he looked down at the small creature that had chosen to trust him, he realized this might be the beginning of an adventure that would test everything he thought he knew about humanity's place among the stars. The dragon stirred again, and this time it looked up at him with eyes that seemed far too old for such a young creature. It made that musical sound again, softer this time, and Marcus could have sworn it was trying to say, "Thank you." "Don't mention it, little guy," Marcus whispered back. "That's what humans do. We fix things that are broken, and we take care of those who need help." He had no way of knowing that those words would soon be repeated across a dozen star systems, or that his simple act of compassion would change the way an entire galactic civilization viewed humanity. For now, he was just a mechanic with a coffee habit and a very unusual new responsibility. But sometimes, that's exactly what the universe needs. Marcus discovered that caring for an alien dragon was significantly more challenging than maintaining a space station's life support systems. 3 days had passed since the rescue, and his workshop had been transformed into an improvised nursery. The little dragon, which he'd started calling Spark due to its tendency to emit small flashes of light when excited, had proven to be both intelligent and demanding. The first challenge had been food. Dr. Calneth's analysis revealed that Spark required a specific combination of minerals and energy sources that weren't available in standard station supplies. Marcus had solved this by jury-rigging a mineral synthesizer from spare parts and his coffee machine's heating elements. The dragon seemed to thrive on the resulting crystalline formations, though it insisted on having Marcus hand-feed each piece. "You're spoiling that creature," complained Grix, a 4-armed Kalani engineer who often worked alongside Marcus. "It should learn independence." Marcus looked up from his workbench where Spark was curled up in a nest of clean shop rags, contentedly chewing on a synthesized energy crystal. "He's not even a week old by our estimation. Human babies need constant care for years." "This is not a human baby," Grix pointed out logically. "No," Marcus agreed, scratching Spark behind what might have been ears. "But the principle still applies. Young creatures need protection and guidance to develop properly." Spark chirped approvingly and nuzzled Marcus's hand with his snout. Over the past few days, the dragon's scales had settled into a predominantly warm bronze color, with golden highlights. More remarkably, he had started to mimic Marcus's speech patterns, though in his own musical language. The workshop's comm system chimed with an incoming priority message. Commander Vexhi's voice filled the room with unusual urgency. "Marcus, report to the command center immediately. We have visitors asking about your acquisition." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He'd known this moment would come eventually. The mysterious ship that had brought Spark was clearly of advanced design, far beyond anything in the current galactic database. Whoever had built it would eventually come looking for their missing cargo. "Grix, can you watch Spark for a few minutes?" The Kalani engineer's eye stalks swiveled nervously. "What if it does something unusual? His name is Spark, and he'll probably just sleep." If he gets hungry, there are more crystals in the synthesizer. Marcus picked up Spark and placed him gently in Grix's upper arms. The dragon looked confused but settled comfortably against the engineer's warm carapace. The command center buzzed with activity when Marcus arrived. 3 ships had taken position around the station. Sleek vessels with the same shifting metal hull as the original craft. They maintained perfect formation, making no threatening moves but clearly demonstrating their presence. They arrived an hour ago, Commander Vex High explained. No weapon signatures, but their technology is beyond our ability to analyze. They've requested to speak with the human who tends the young one. Dr. Kalneth approached with her datapad full of readings. Marcus, I've been analyzing the materials from Spark's original ship. The technology appears to be biological in nature, grown rather than manufactured, and the energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Through the main viewport, Marcus could see the 3 ships maintaining their vigilant watch. They were beautiful in their alien way. Organic curves blending seamlessly with mechanical precision. No viewports or obvious weapon systems were visible, yet something about their presence suggested vast power held in careful restraint. Have they made any demands? Marcus asked. Only the request to speak with you, the commander replied. They've been remarkably patient, but I sense that patience has limits. Marcus nodded slowly. Open a channel. Let's see what they want. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being that took Marcus's breath away. She somehow, he was certain of the gender, stood nearly 8 feet tall, with scales that shifted through colors similar to Spark's, but more complex. Like oil on water, her face was elegant and alien, with large eyes that held depths of intelligence and something that might have been sadness. Most remarkably, she had 4 fully developed wings folded against her back, gossamer membranes that seemed to capture and reflect light. When she spoke, her voice was the same musical language that Spark used, but mature and complex beyond anything Marcus had heard from the little dragon. I am Song of the Morning Stars, came the translation through the station's computer systems. I seek the young one who was lost in the void. Your people have taken him into protection. Yes? Marcus stepped forward, acutely aware that his next words might determine the fate of both Spark and the station. Yes. We found him in distress aboard a damaged ship. He needed immediate care. Song of the Morning Stars tilted her head, studying Marcus with obvious interest. You are the mechanic who fixes broken things. The young one has bonded with you. This is unexpected. Bonded? Our young imprint upon their primary caregiver during their first emergence from stasis. Usually, this is a parent or designated guardian of our people. Never has one bonded with an alien species. Her large eyes seemed to pierce into Marcus's soul. Show me how you have cared for him. Marcus felt a moment of panic. Had he done something wrong? Was his improvised care somehow harmful to Spark? But before he could respond, the workshop's comm system crackled to life. Marcus, Grix's voice was filled with alarm. You need to return immediately. Your dragon is changing. Without asking permission, Marcus ran from the command center, leaving the alien dignitary watching his retreat with what might have been amusement. He arrived at his workshop to find chaos. Grix was pressed against the far wall, all 4 arms spread protectively in front of himself. In the center of the room, Spark floated 3 feet off the ground, surrounded by a swirling vortex of energy and light. The little dragon's scales had shifted to brilliant silver and his eyes glowed with an inner fire. He was twice his original size and growing, his wing buds extending into gossamer membranes that sparkled with contained starlight. Most alarming of all, he was keening a high, musical cry that seemed to vibrate through the station's hull. Spark, Marcus called out, stepping into the energy field without hesitation. The moment his voice reached the dragon, everything changed. The energy vortex collapsed, Spark dropped back to his original size, and the brilliant glow faded to his normal warm bronze. He landed in Marcus's outstretched hands, trembling and making small distressed sounds. It's okay, Marcus whispered, cradling the frightened creature. I'm here. You're safe. Behind him, Song of the Morning Stars had arrived, moving through the workshop with fluid grace. She observed the scene with obvious amazement. her scales shifting through colors that Marcus somehow understood, conveyed surprise and reverence. "Impossible," she murmured. The young one attempted forced maturation in response to separation anxiety. This should have been fatal without proper guidance fields. "But he's okay now," Marcus said, feeling Spark's heartbeat returning to normal. "Yes, because you provided the stabilizing influence." Song of the Morning Stars approached slowly, her movements careful and non-threatening. "Human Marcus, do you understand what you have done?" "I helped a scared baby who needed care," Marcus replied simply. "No." The alien's voice carried layers of meaning that the translation system struggled to convey. "You have become parent bond to a Zephyrian royal heir. Spark of New Understanding, for that is his true name in our tongue, is the offspring of our greatest leaders. His parents died in the attack that damaged his stasis ship. We thought him lost forever." Marcus stared at the small dragon in his hands, who was now contentedly chewing on the sleeve of his coveralls. "Royal heir? But he is the future of our people." Song of the Morning Stars continued. "And according to our laws, his parent bond supersedes all other considerations. You are now responsible for his upbringing until he reaches maturity." "How long does that take?" Marcus asked weakly. "For your species?" "Approximately 25 of your standard years." Grix made a choking sound from his position against the wall. 25 years? "Marcus, you realize what this means?" Before Marcus could answer, Spark had crawled up his arm to perch on his shoulder. The little dragon looked around the room with bright, intelligent eyes, then made a series of musical sounds that somehow conveyed satisfaction and determination. Song of the Morning Stars laughed a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "He says he has chosen well. The human who fixes broken things will teach him to repair what has been damaged in the galaxy." "I'm not qualified to raise alien royalty," Marcus protested. "I'm just a mechanic." "Exactly," Song of the Morning Stars replied. "Our previous royal lines were raised in luxury and isolation, taught to rule from above. Perhaps that is why they fell to our enemies. Spark of New Understanding will learn to build from the ground up, to understand the value of honest work, to see the galaxy from the perspective of those who keep it running." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders like a physical burden. But when he looked at Spark, who was now trying to nest in the pocket of his coveralls, he couldn't imagine walking away. "What about the station? My job here? The Zephyrian Council will provide for your needs," Song of the Morning Stars assured him. "And young Spark will need to understand many different cultures and technologies. This station serves as an ideal learning environment." Commander Vexhi's voice came over the intercom. "Marcus, we're receiving data packages from our visitors. They're providing technological exchanges as payment for services rendered." Marcus looked at his readouts and felt his jaw drop. The information flooding into the station's computers contained technological advances that would revolutionize everything from life support to faster-than-light travel, energy systems that could run forever, manufacturing techniques that could create materials stronger than anything previously known, medical knowledge that could extend lifespans across species. "This is just a token of our gratitude," Song of the Morning Stars explained. "Your species has shown something rare in this galaxy: the willingness to help without considering personal gain. Spark will learn this from you, and perhaps teach it to our people in return." Spark chose that moment to emit a small burp and a puff of what looked like glitter. Marcus couldn't help but laugh. "I guess I should start researching dragon care techniques." "Zephyrian care techniques," Song of the Morning Stars corrected gently. "And you will have help. I will remain as cultural advisor, and to teach him our history and traditions. But his primary formation will come from you." Marcus looked around his workshop, imagining the modifications he'd need to make for a growing dragon: stronger perches, a larger synthesizer, perhaps some kind of flight training area. And definitely more coffee. He had a feeling he was going to need it. "One thing I don't understand," Marcus said. "Why did he trust me so quickly? Why me instead of Dr. Kalnith or Commander Vexhi or anyone else?" Song of the Morning Stars smiled, an expression that somehow translated perfectly despite their different species. Because, human Marcus, you approached him with the same care you would give to any broken machine not seeking to understand or control, but simply to fix what was damaged and restore proper function. To a Zephyrian in distress, this is the highest form of love. Marcus felt tears in his eyes as he looked at Spark, who had fallen asleep in his pocket. I've never been a parent before. None of us have. Until we are, Song of the Morning Stars replied wisely. But you have already proven you possess the most important qualification, the willingness to put another's needs before your own. As if in response to her words, Spark stirred and made a contented sound, his scales shifting to a warm golden color that reminded Marcus of his morning coffee. The little dragon had found his family, and Marcus had found a purpose he never knew he was looking for. The galaxy, he realized, was about to become a much more interesting place. 2 years had transformed both Marcus's life and Frontier Station 7 into something neither had ever expected to become. The workshop that had once been a cramped corner of the industrial sector now sprawled across 3 levels, equipped with fabrication equipment that seemed like magic to most of the galaxy. Spark, now officially Prince Spark of New Understanding but still just Spark to Marcus, had grown from the size of a house cat to roughly that of a young horse. Though considerably more aerodynamic, the dragon's morning routine had become as predictable as Marcus's coffee habit. Every day, at 0630 station time, Spark would emerge from his sleeping alcove, stretch his magnificent silver and gold wings, and glide down to where Marcus was inevitably hunched over his workbench with his first cup of the day. "Good morning, young genius," Marcus said without looking up from the power coupling he was modifying. "Sleep well?" Spark landed with practiced grace and nuzzled Marcus's shoulder, making the melodic sounds that had evolved into their own private language. Over the years, the dragon had learned to speak several galactic languages fluently, but he still preferred their original method of communication for personal conversations. "The refugee transport from Kepler 442 is having life support problems again," Marcus continued, setting down his tools to scratch behind Spark's wing joints. "Want to help me figure out why their atmospheric processors keep failing?" Spark's scales shifted to excited golden hues as he settled beside the workbench. Even after 2 years, he remained fascinated by mechanical problems, approaching each challenge with the same methodical curiosity Marcus had taught him. Together, they had solved engineering problems that had stumped experts across the galaxy. Not through advanced technology, but through careful observation and creative thinking. The comm system chimed with an incoming message that made both of them look up in surprise. Song of the Morning Stars appeared on the screen, but her usual serene expression was replaced by something Marcus had learned to recognize as serious concern. "Marcus, Spark, I bring urgent news from the Zephyrian Council. We have received intelligence about the Devourer fleet. They have discovered our new colonies and are mobilizing for attack." Marcus felt his blood go cold. The Devourer fleet was the nightmare that haunted every peaceful species in this sector of the galaxy. A coalition of aggressive races that consumed resources and enslaved populations. They had been responsible for the destruction of Spark's parents and countless other Zephyrian communities. "How long do we have?" Marcus asked, his mind already shifting into crisis management mode. 6 days until they reach the sanctuary system. We are evacuating what civilians we can, but our military forces are insufficient. The Council has voted to attempt negotiation. Spark made a sound that Marcus had learned indicated profound disagreement. The dragon's scales shifted to angry reds and oranges, colors that had become more frequent as he learned about the fate of his parents. "Spark says negotiations won't work," Marcus translated, though Song of the Morning Stars had undoubtedly understood the dragon's meaning herself. "They're predators, not diplomats." "I agree," Song of the Morning Stars replied. "But the Council fears that military resistance will only hasten the destruction of our remaining colonies. They seek alternatives to warfare." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his engineer's mind working through possibilities. Spark settled closer to him, offering silent support, while his own young mind grappled with the implications. Finally, Marcus looked up with the expression that meant he had an idea, usually a dangerous one. What if we didn't fight them or negotiate with them? What if we fixed them? Fix them? Song of the Morning Stars asked, confusion evident in her voice. Marcus stood and began pacing, a habit Spark had learned to recognize as the beginning of one of his foster father's more ambitious projects. The Devourer fleet exists because they've stripped their home systems bare and need to keep expanding to survive. They're not evil by choice, they're trapped in a cycle of consumption because they never learned sustainable technology. Spark chirped excitedly, his scales shifting to the bright blues and purples that indicated he was following Marcus's logic. You want to teach them better engineering? Song of the Morning Stars asked skeptically. Not teach, demonstrate. Give them an alternative that's more appealing than conquest. Marcus pulled up his holographic displays, showing schematics he'd been working on with Spark. Look, with the Zephyrian biotechnology and human manufacturing principles, we could create self-sustaining habitats that regenerate resources instead of consuming them. What if we offered the Devourer fleet something they've never had the chance to stop running? Song of the Morning Stars studied the schematics with growing amazement. The designs merged Zephyrian organic technology with human engineering concepts in ways that neither species had previously considered. Living space stations that could grow their own food, process their own atmosphere, and even reproduce through guided biological processes. The Council would never approve such a risk, she said finally. Then we don't ask the Council, Marcus replied with a grin that Spark had learned to associate with their best adventures. We ask them for permission to try a different kind of negotiation. One mechanic, one dragon prince, and some really good coffee. 3 days later, Marcus found himself aboard a small diplomatic shuttle, approaching the Devourer fleet's flagship, a massive vessel that looked like it had been cobbled together from the wreckage of 1,000 conquered ships. Spark crouched beside him, his adult size now impressive enough to serve as both translator and protector. In the cargo hold, they carried a single device, a small-scale version of the regenerative habitat Marcus had designed. The Devourer ship's docking bay was a nightmare of improvised repairs and jury-rigged systems. Marcus's engineering eye immediately spotted dozens of critical failures waiting to happen. The species that met them were a mix of different races, unified only by desperation and the brutal efficiency of survival. Their leader called himself Warlord Scar, a scarred veteran whose cybernetic implants were clearly failing. He towered over Marcus and eyed Spark with obvious hunger, probably calculating the dragon's value as food or raw materials. You come to surrender your technology, Scar growled through a translation device that sounded like it was held together with scrap wire. Good. We take ships. We take knowledge. You live as slaves. Actually, Marcus said calmly, I came to offer you something better. A way to stop running, stop raiding, stop watching your people suffer in ships that are falling apart around you. Scar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the crude chamber. Human knows nothing of suffering. Your people sit in comfortable stations, while we scavenge scraps from dead worlds. Marcus looked around the room, taking in the desperation he could see in every improvised repair, every hollow-eyed face. These weren't monsters, they were refugees who had been forced to become predators to survive. You're right, Marcus said. I don't know your suffering, but I know broken systems when I see them, and I know how to fix things that seem unfixable. He activated the device they had brought, and suddenly the room was filled with gentle light. The small habitat unit unfolded like a flower, its biomechanical components creating a perfect ecosystem in miniature. Clean air, fresh water, growing food, all in a space no larger than a desktop. Trick, Scar spat, but Marcus could see the wonder in the eyes of the other Devourers. No trick. Technology. The same science that keeps our stations running indefinitely. Adapted for ships like yours. Imagine never needing to raid for food again, never having to strip mine another dead world, never having to choose between survival and conscience. Spark stepped forward and spoke in the musical language of the Zephyrians, but somehow every being in the room understood the meaning. The dragon was offering them hope, not as a gift, but as an opportunity to earn something better. Warlord Scar approached the habitat unit suspiciously, his failing sensors struggling to analyze the technology. What price? Nothing comes free. The price. Marcus said, is learning to be something more than predators. Help us install these systems on your ships. Teach your people to maintain them. And in return, share your knowledge of survival in hostile environments. The galaxy needs both strength and wisdom. And if we refuse? Marcus shrugged. The gesture, somehow managing to convey both respect and confidence. Then you continue as you have, but your ships are failing. Your people are dying slowly. And eventually there won't be enough of you left to crew even one vessel. This isn't about surrender, it's about survival. For the first time in the conversation, Warlord Scar was quiet. Around the room, other Devourers were studying the habitat unit, hope fighting with suspicion in their eyes. Spark made a gentle sound and approached one of the younger Devourers. A being whose cybernetic arm was sparking dangerously. Without fear, the dragon extended one wing and somehow used his bioelectric field to stabilize the failing systems. The young Devourer stared at his now functional arm in amazement. Why? Scar asked finally. Why risk this? We are enemies of your people. Marcus looked at Spark, remembering a tiny, frightened creature that had trusted a stranger to save him. Because that's what people do for each other. We fix what's broken, we help those who need it, and we try to make things better for everyone. 6 months later, Frontier Station 7 had become the unofficial diplomatic center for the most unusual alliance in galactic history. The Devourer fleet had split into smaller, sustainable groups, each equipped with regenerative habitats that Marcus and Spark had helped install. Former raiders now worked as engineers, teachers, and explorers, using their survival skills to help other species facing desperate circumstances. Warlord Scar, now calling himself Chief Engineer Scar, had become one of Marcus's most valued collaborators, bringing decades of experience in maintaining impossible systems under hostile conditions. Together with Spark, they had founded the Galaxy Repair Initiative, a mobile organization dedicated to solving humanitarian crises through creative engineering. I still don't understand it, Commander Vexhai said, watching the latest batch of refugee ships being outfitted with sustainable technology. How did you know they would accept? Marcus smiled and scratched behind Spark's ears, earning a contented rumble from the now-adult dragon. Because broken things want to be fixed. People, systems, relationships, they all want to work properly. Sometimes they just need someone to show them how. Spark spoke in his musical language, adding his own perspective. Song of the Morning Stars, now serving as the official Zephyrian ambassador to the initiative, translated with a smile. He says that humans have a gift for seeing potential where others see only problems, and that the best way to deal with an enemy is to help them become a friend. Wise words from a young prince, Marcus agreed. Though I think he learned that from watching his dad work on stubborn machines. Spark's scales shifted to the warm gold that meant happiness and amusement. Even after all these years, he still considered Marcus his true father, regardless of what the galaxy might call him. And Marcus had learned that sometimes the best way to save the universe was simply to treat everyone human, alien, or former enemy with the same care and attention he'd give to a broken engine. After all, most problems were just puzzles waiting for someone patient enough to find the right solution. And with a dragon at his side and unlimited coffee at his disposal, Marcus Chen was prepared to spend the rest of his life fixing whatever needed to be repaired. The galaxy, he had discovered, was full of broken things that just needed someone to care enough to make them work again. And that, perhaps, was the most human skill of all.